if you've been following the global race for artificial intelligence, you know that governments and, well, major corporations are pouring capital into building just massive data infrastructure.
It's an arms race, for sure.
Absolutely. And today, we're looking at a really fascinating set of sources that analyze one of the boldest national strategies out there, the UAE's ambitious drive to become a central hub for AI.
Right, specifically by building the region's largest infrastructure for what's called token generation.
And it is, without a doubt, a huge and very public commitment.
Oh, it's a massive statement. They want to be a global center for AI model hosting, for data processing. It's an incredibly compelling statement of intent, really, the desire to lead that next technological wave.
But, and this is the interesting part, when we dove into the critique around this strategy, a huge strategic tension just immediately popped up. For the last few years, the token, the basic unit of digital language, it's become completely mythologized. There's this widespread belief that just producing trillions of them is the same as building true intelligence.
Token volume as a proxy for AI strength.
Exactly. And that's where we're going to draw the line today. Our mission is to take you beyond that token-centric illusion. We're going to unpack the argument that this focus on sheer volume is actually a strategic misstep.
And we need to understand why tokens are, they're excellent fuel, but they arrive without a compass. We're going to explore a smarter and frankly dramatically cheaper alternative path that focuses on genuine cognitive intelligence rather than just getting better at linguistic mimicry.
So to be clear, we're not questioning the ambition. That's legitimate. It's bold. We're asking if the path they're on is the right one to get there.
Right. So let's start with the basics. What are these massive systems actually doing?
Good place to start.
Okay, so let's unpack the fundamental premise of large language models, LLMs. It's actually pretty elegant in its simplicity. They break down all of language into tokens, basically just digital pieces of words.
Little
building blocks. And then they use just a massive amount of computation to predict the most statistically probable next token in a sequence. It's basically a game of very, very high-stakes digital Mad Libs.
And because of the sheer scale of the data, we're talking trillions of tokens, the outputs are just incredible. They generate text that's fluent, it's grammatically perfect, and it often sounds contextually appropriate.
It sounds like a human wrote it. That's the critical distinction. It excels at fluency, but it critically fails at genuine understanding. What you're seeing is sophisticated statistical pattern completion. It's mimicry. It's not cognition.
And that's the token trap, right? When we mistake that mimicry for actual thought.
That's the trap.
But hang on. Trillions of tokens are what gave us ChatGPT, what gave us this whole rapid advancement of the last few years, right? I mean, isn't there an argument that if they just get big enough, these cognitive flaws will sort of disappear?
Yeah.
That quantity eventually becomes quality.
That is the hope. It's the big bet. But the data from the cutting edge of research, it just contradicts that. Our sources, which include these really detailed analyses of the biggest current models, are very clear.
And what do they say?
They say scaling up the current architecture only amplifies the existing flaws. They detail 4 core problems that they don't go away, no matter how much compute you throw at them.
Okay, so let's get into them. What are the 4 flaws that a token factory can't solve?
First, there's the notorious hallucination problem.
Right.
I mean, these systems generate confidently false, just completely ungrounded outputs because they don't possess actual knowledge or a way to verify facts.
So it's basically a very articulate liar. It sounds right, but it's just making stuff up.
Exactly. It can't distinguish between what's statistically plausible and what's factually true. The second is weak reasoning. They really struggle with causal relationships, with logical chains.
How so?
Well, it can write you a detailed essay on quantum physics, but it'll fail to solve a simple, multi-step logic puzzle that a child could do, one that requires planning or deduction.
And I'm guessing the human element, like the intent behind my question, is completely missing from that probability model.
Precisely. And that brings us to the third flaw, context blindness. These models are functionally incapable of truly grasping your intent or ethical nuance or cultural values. They just optimize for the most probable next word.
And the last one.
Opaque decisions. Since the whole process is just a web of weighted probabilities, you get no explanation, no accountability, no insight into why it gave you a particular output.
I really want to pause on this analogy from the sources, because I think it makes it so clear.
Yep.
You can scale tokens to the trillions. You could build the largest data center in the world, but you still haven't built wisdom. And the analogy is perfect. Just as fitting a bigger engine into a car doesn't create a smarter driver, building a larger language model doesn't create a wiser mind.
It just creates faster mimicry.
Exactly. And that lack of wisdom, that's what brings us directly to the strategic risks here. This pursuit of raw scale.
Hmm.
It risks becoming what the sources call billions without meaning.
That's a great phrase for it.
So let's talk about those traps. Trap number one is the staggering runaway cost. And we are talking about resource expenditure that challenges the scale of entire nations.
It's truly immense to run these token factories at the scale they're talking about for, regional supremacy.
Mm.
It demands gigawatt-scale electricity.
Wow.
We're talking billions in high-end GPUs, plus the massive cooling systems, the real estate footprints. It's a perpetual accelerating resource sink.
And all that investment is just powering systems that, as the sources put it, speak well, but think poorly. So you're spending more and more money to amplify a known flaw. You get faster hallucinations, not better truth.
Yes. And that waste leads directly into the second trap. Limited real-world value.
Okay.
You simply cannot measure true intelligence by the volume of words generated. I mean, the cognitive bar for real utility in government or finance or medicine is so much higher than statistical prediction.
So if they're chasing that utility, what capabilities does a truly valuable AI need that scaling can't deliver?
Well, it has to understand intent, not just syntax. It must be able to apply causal logic understanding, if this, then that.
Cause and effect.
Cause and effect. And crucially, for any real-world trust, it needs to explain why a decision was made. You need explainability, accountability, and the ability to align with very specific contextual values. These are cognitive things, not statistical.
So this really does sound like a strategic crossroads. If scaling up is just leading to astronomical costs and, well, limited cognitive gain, what are the world's leading minds focusing on instead?
That's the pivot point. While some are still racing to build bigger token silos, you have leading researchers at places like MIT, Stanford, IBM, Meta. They've moved on.
To what?
They're pursuing something entirely different. Hybrid cognitive architectures. They are explicitly trying to fuse language processing with separate engines for logic, for reasoning, and for ethics.
I want to pause there because this is the most fascinating turn in the sources. The consensus is that the whole premise of bigger equals smarter is just wrong.
It's being seriously challenged, yes.
So if they aren't chasing token volume, where are the leading labs focusing their billions?
The finding is stated pretty unequivocally. Chasing ever larger models is generating more waste than intelligence. And the crucial strategic insight here is that it's dramatically cheaper to build systems that think than systems that only talk.
Wow, say that again?
Logical reasoning is just far less resource-intensive than linguistic bloat.
That is a massive paradigm shift. The goal shifts from prediction to process.
Precisely. Instead of just trying to predict the next word, you're building systems designed to understand the user's goal, to justify their response based on logic and rules, and to learn from context dynamically. This is a move toward building genuine thought.
And beyond the intelligence and the cost savings, this path also offers a huge geopolitical advantage, doesn't it? It's about technological sovereignty.
Absolutely. The future they describe is fundamentally open source and modular. This gives a direct pathway for nations like the UAE to achieve complete technological independence. They don't have to depend on the closed, proprietary black box APIs coming out of Silicon Valley.
They can own their entire tech stack end to end.
Exactly.
Okay, let's get specific. The source material outlines a pretty detailed blueprint for this alternative path. They call it the Cognitive Hybrid Model, or CHM1.
And the benefits are what make it a real game changer. CHM1 is designed for conscious, multi-step reasoning. It moves beyond statistical pattern completion. It fundamentally incorporates intent awareness. So it's not just parsing text, it's grasping what you're actually trying to achieve.
And the cost efficiency is the clearest strategic win. You're building smarter software instead of just buying mountains of hardware.
Right. The sources project that its lean architecture promises 60 to 80% lower operational costs compared to running these massive continuous token factories. And crucially, it guarantees full technological sovereignty.
So how do they do that? You mentioned it's modular, like a skeleton repo blueprint?
Yes, CHM1 isn't one huge monolithic engine. Think of it more like a team of specialized, highly efficient mechanics working together.
Okay, let's unpack those mechanics. How do you build logic and reasoning if you're not using a giant prediction engine?
Well, you start by separating the thinking from the talking. The most critical component is symbolic reasoning. This is your planning and rule-based logic engine. It uses tools like SimEngine to process problems algorithmically, like a computer program, not probabilistically, like an LLM.
So that's the part that solves the weak reasoning flaw. It gives the system a kind of structural brain.
Precisely. Next, you need graph intelligence. For connecting facts and understanding complex relationships, they use frameworks like PyTorch Geometric. This is where the model maps knowledge. It understands that Dubai as a city in the UAE is a fixed relationship, not just a sequence of probable tokens.
So you're building a persistent, factual skeleton of knowledge around the language model.
Mhm.
The LLM is just for communication.
Exactly.
And what about those contextual values we talked about? The ethics, the cultural alignment?
That's handled by dedicated ethical guardrails. These are hard-coded systems using tools like durable rules to make sure all decisions align with predefined values. It provides that crucial layer of accountability that a probabilistic system can never offer.
And memory. Because you need a memory that doesn't forget the context every time you ask a new question.
Correct. The memory system relies exclusively on open vector databases, they mention Weaviate or Qdrant, explicitly steering clear of closed proprietary systems. This ensures the long-term memory of the system remains fully sovereign and controllable.
So every core piece of the cognitive architecture is open, accountable, and controllable. The LLM really only functions as the final translator.
That's it. The language interface itself is built on Hugging face-compatible transformers. This means you can plug in any language module you need, Arabic, English, technical jargon, without compromising the logic of the underlying reasoning engine.
This means that a nation like the UAE could own the entire value chain, from the algorithm to the final decision, and do it while spending potentially 80% less than they would on a massive GPU farm for statistical mimicry.
It's a profound strategic advantage. It allows them to bypass the current costly, flawed phase of the AI race and leapfrog directly into the next generation.
Which brings us back to that strategic crossroads. The choice couldn't be starker, and the risk of getting it wrong is immense.
The analogy they use to describe staying on the token path is very vivid. Building massive token infrastructure without a cognitive layer is like constructing a world-class airport with no airlines.
All this impressive, costly infrastructure, but you lack the ability to actually move any real-world value.
Exactly. And the risk is investing billions today, only to find yourself having to rebuild that cognitive layer from scratch in 5 years, because the efficient hybrid architectures will have already leapfrogged the LLM-only approach.
The resources, the political will, the capital, it's all there for the UAE to succeed. The opportunity isn't just to lead the region, but to actually define the next wave of artificial intelligence.
It's about building something that even current Silicon Valley behemoths, constrained by their existing investments, haven't fully mastered yet.
So what does this all mean for you watching this race unfold?
It means you have to look past the headlines touting trillion-parameter models. You shouldn't confuse volume with wisdom. The world doesn't need more tokens. It needs AI that understands humans, not just imitates them.
The solution isn't more tokens. It's redefining intelligence itself.
It is, and the future belongs not to those who generate text fastest, but to those who build systems that can reason, explain their choices, and choose wisely. That commitment to logic and accountability, that is the kind of intelligence you should be paying attention to.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. If you've been following the global race for artificial